Mr. McGuire here for week number 2 of our virtual learning. Hope you guys are doing well at home. I hope your family is doing well and you're finding ways to occupy your time in this difficult situation. So what I thought was I'm going to give you an assignment for this week, and it's going to be out of our Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul book. So let me go ahead and fire off the story for you, and then I'll tell you what the assignment is afterwards. Title is called Table for Three. I'm awakened by the sound of voices arguing in the garage. Rolling over, I squint my eyes to the alarm clock, realizing it is only 5 in the morning. I recognize the two voices as my mom and dad's. I hear my father's voice rising as my mom darts into hysteria. I'm familiar with this sickening duet, just not so early in the morning. I recall a conversation I had with my dad, and I realize the implications are just now taking effect. You see, last week he took me to dinner at McDonald's, I know, big spender, and he shared a secret with me that would forever change my life. He began by asking if I was happy with the way things were at home. I knew he was referring to the tension that existed between him and my mother. I wasn't happy with the way things were, but I was frightened to think of the divorce. It's like that thing hanging over me like an iceberg, and I didn't want it. Unfortunately, divorce is pretty rampant amongst my friends' parents, although I didn't want it to happen to us. In fact, it was the last thing I wanted. That's not a club I want to be a part of. Then out of nowhere, he was sharing this quote-unquote secret with me that I didn't want to hear. He told me he was going to leave my mother, but didn't know when. All the while reassuring me that he would be there for me. I found myself shaking my head all along, not understanding what is going on. He told me they hadn't been happy for a long time, and I'm thinking, well, if you've both not been happy, then why are you calling this a secret? Mom should be here hearing this. He hugged me awkwardly. He told me that he just didn't know when it was going to happen, but that it was going to happen. I kept asking, when? When are you going to tell her? He said, when the moment's right. So for 2 solid weeks now, I've been staring into my mother's eyes, not telling her what we talked about. I feel like I'm betraying her just like my dad is. But I try to convince myself that the conversation we had at McDonald's, that it just never happened. Now as I lie in bed listening to my mom's cries, I realize the moment has arrived. Although my mom and I haven't always gotten along or seen eye to eye like dating, driving, school, friends, etc., right now my stomach aches for her. Each of her sobs shoots through me like a dart piercing my chest. The agony is so great that I finally understand what a broken heart must feel like. I shuffle out of bed and make my way down the long hallway to the garage where the voices seem to be coming from. I slowly open the door, but make sure not to be seen. What I see before my eyes makes me want to vomit. My mom is holding on to the bottom of my dad's black leather jacket. She is straining to hold him back. This is not a proud woman who once refused to take money for help. Her face is red in tears. Her nose runs. She has no pride. He's taking that with him. He grabs his coat from her, pushes her back with his hand, tells her it's over. It's been over for a long time, and we both know it. She screams again, saying, no, no, no. And then suddenly her tone changes from anger as she screams, you were just going to sneak out in the night, weren't you? You're a child. You have no backbone. You're a coward. You're a pig. I hate you. She's still not letting go of the grip on his jacket. He pulls away from her, and she's left holding only his jacket in her hands. He kneels down, tosses his packed bag into the back of the van. He gets behind the wheel, and without another word, he backs up out of the driveway and out of our lives forever. Now all I hear is the crying. I'm not worried about the neighbors hearing what went on. They're used to the sounds of my parents' war. Each gave up their dignity a long time ago. We don't know what shame feels like anymore. As my mom leans against the wall, crying, all I can think about is what I could have done to cause this. Was it because I talked back to my mom that time when we were out having family dinner? She got so angry with me, and I remember my dad telling her not to lose her cool. She glanced at me across the table. She did not like this friendly alliance my dad and I had. There was screaming and yelling, and people were staring, but my parents didn't care. Next thing I know, my dad would storm out of the restaurant to the car. That's always what happened. They would have a fight, and then my dad would take off. My mother turned to me that night as we sat alone, and she said, "Please don't destroy my marriage. I don't think I can live without him." I felt sorry for her now, and I feel sorry for her now, and I wonder, was I the one that drove my parents apart? I was always Daddy's little girl, and she was always my rival for his attention. My mom described our relationship as black and white. If she said up, I said down. If she said fat, I said thin. It was not something I could stop myself from doing. I pulled the door to the garage closed and headed back to my room. Once inside, I pressed my forehead against the cool window pane, hoping his car would be coming back. Maybe it was just a bad dream and then I'd wake up. But then I felt her hand touch my shoulder. The lady I fought with so much took my head in her hands and turned it towards her. She wasn't crying anymore. As she pressed her cheek to hers, all I could feel was the wetness of her tears. There were no words spoken between us that morning. For once, we both felt the same thing. We were in agreement of our grief, and now we were left with one chair painfully empty at our table for three. Wow. So again, these are true stories from teenagers that wrote in, and they just pretty much glued them in a book. But when I hear that story, what comes to mind is, and if I could talk to this girl, I would definitely tell her that you had absolutely nothing to do with this divorce. And to be honest with you, I'd love to sit down with her parents and like grab them by the shoulders and shake them and say, "Why are you putting your kid in between you guys?" Not fair at all. For the dad to take his daughter to McDonald's and go, "Oh yeah, by the way, I hope you enjoy your quarter pounder with cheese, and yeah, I'm gonna leave your mom, but I'm not gonna tell you when." It's a horrible thing to do to a child. I would rather the dad say, "Look, we're having troubles, but guess what? I'm gonna fight it out. I'm not going anywhere. I made a promise to your mother to take care of her, to love her, to be there for her, and I'm not going anywhere. So sorry for all the fighting, but guess what? I'm gonna man up and I'm gonna make this right." That's what I wished he would have said, not just kind of hang on until I leave. Awful thing to do to a kid. I remember when my parents got divorced, from time to time they would say some kind of snarky things about the other one, and I would always remind them, "Look, I get it that you have your feelings, but I'm the child. I'm the one caught in the middle. I love my mother, I love my father, so please don't keep your opinions to yourself," is basically what I would tell my mom and dad. And they understood. They understood. The kids are always the one caught in the middle, unfortunately. So, hard story to hear, but unfortunately, you and I know people that have gone through similar situations. So the good news is, like I said, when you get married, you can do it differently. You can borrow from your parents what you liked, and then you can do things differently, things that they didn't do. So here's the assignment. You ready for it? I want you guys to, number one, tell me who is the protagonist in this particular scene, who is the antagonist in this particular scene, and then what is the theme? What is the main point that the author or the writer is trying to get across, okay? And also, let me know how you're doing. I'm very curious to make sure you guys are doing okay. So, this is Mr. McGuire. I hope you guys are doing well, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Take care.